What's up, folks? It's 2Bricks, and I'm back with part 2 of my Designing Ahsoka's Shuttle in Lego series here, and I have quite a lot of progress to show you. Wings is coming loose there. There's a lot that's happened since the last video, so I'm very excited for that. I've kind of integrated some of the parts that we had separated out last week, so I'm very excited to show you that. The interior is beginning to take shape here. And yeah, so there's just kind of a lot of progress that's been made. Obviously, if you haven't seen part 1, check that out if you want to, because there's a lot of cool stuff in there on these sort of initial thoughts on the design process and whatnot. And some of that has now changed, so you kind of can compare and contrast. So be sure to check out part 1 if you haven't already. But today I'm just going to kind of show you where I got to, where I felt was a good stopping point to shoot the video, and where I still have to go next, and the challenges I still have to figure out. So I'm very excited for that. So let's kind of dive in and take a look at what's been done. All right, so the first big change that I made since last week is that I took the entire wing that I had worked pretty hard and gotten pretty far along, and I destroyed it completely, and I started over from scratch for a very simple reason. So when I initially approached the wings for this, I wanted to get this little channel of contrast in here, you know, the sort of classic Star Wars detail trench that I described last week. And so I thought, well, I know that the geometry of using bracket pieces like this lines up perfectly so that the plates will meet top and bottom in this configuration right here. And so I can get the gray down the middle, and then I can get the white on top, sandwiching it either side. And the reason that I have to use brackets in this fashion is because the central core of the wings is 2 bricks thick. That's the part that's coming down from inside of here. That's unavoidable. So I was like, yeah, I'll just cover those with the bracket pieces, and then I can build the wings on in this, you know, in this way, and I'll just be able to have the gray trench down the middle like that, built with plates. Well, I find that really restricting. So what I did was I instead came up with a system where I used these brick modifieds with the studs on the side instead, and then I ended up basically being able to create a 1 brick thick section here at the front with a little bit of help with this bracket right here to fill in the gap, so that I would have the ability to put a whole brick's worth of details down here, as opposed to the 2 plates of thickness that I was very restricted by in terms of what kinds of details I could get. So then I just basically redid everything with the new geometry, and yeah, and changed it up to this system where, yes, you do have a slight gap right above here for this section, just this section right here, where there's the gap of the bracket basically, and then the brick kind of fills in all the rest of the details, but that's almost imperceptible. And the trade-off in terms of like what you actually get out of that, being able to include all of this lovely greebling in the front here and making it really look like a proper Star Warsy thing, I think is fully worth it. So that's that. And then I also figured that what I would do then is, once this chunkier section of the wing is completed and we're kind of connected in here to the main structure, I would then transition to a different system going forward for this part right here. So let me zoom in on that and show you. So to make my life simpler, what I decided to do is, for the section where the wing then transitions to the narrower portion, I would simply connect in using Technic 2x bricks into Technic 1x bricks with Technic pins and axles. That I would connect the section here that is much more simply built with just 1 brick with studs on both sides connecting the 2 wing assemblies top and bottom. And so that transition to a much simpler design allows me to just finish out the remainder of the wing, going all the way back through the half moon with the simpler design approach. So that's kind of cool. Actually can't put this back on right now because the little dry dock situation that I have, this weight will make this tip off. So I'll put it back in a second when I show you the rest of the ship. But yes, that's the main kind of big change that I did so far as something that I stopped, went back and rethought. And then the other change, I'll just show you that in a second, is right back here. So very quickly I realized, as I was beginning to build these wing assemblies, I actually decided on the second go around to do each side mirrored both wings, designing them kind of simultaneously and building them simultaneously, because I wanted to test out the weight and the rotational mechanism and all that. Good thing I did, because the previous system that I had, as I suspected, was not sturdy enough at all to withstand the weight of these wings. Almost immediately, as soon as I started getting like past here-ish, it was beginning to buckle and crack under here. So no good at all. So what I did is previously the wings were the rotational mechanism was only this 4-brick section right here, and it was held together with the rounded bricks that were just kind of held together with brackets and some rounded tiles holding them together. So then what I did is I built an extra section that goes back further here, a further 2 bricks of thickness, 2 bricks, and then that is constructed differently, where it's all sandwiched plates that kind of hold the whole thing together very, very sturdily, with a different setup inside of here for the core. I probably should have taken a picture of that before I built it into the ship and made it inaccessible. But essentially what that did is it strengthened this up by about 500% versus what I had before. And so that has now enabled me to support the weight, at least thus far. I'm hoping that I don't have to do any further reinforcements, because that's going to be a real pain in the butt to do. And I'm honestly not sure how I would reinforce this further without just completely rethinking this part of the design. So I'm hoping that I'm just going to be able to get away with it, because we're about maybe in total volume about halfway through with this wing. It goes back and it goes out a little bit further, but the thinner section here isn't as big of a worry, and this part right here, the thicker, bulkier section, kind of cuts off around about back here. So maybe we'll get away with it. Let's see. But so far it's working great, and I'm not worried. So I'll just show you in a second that rotating, because it looks really, really cool. But it did sort of slightly throw off my my design here, as far as where the part here that comes off at 45 degrees had to be introduced. It had to be shifted back a brick. And then I just have a little bit of a rethink in terms of the collar that goes around here as well. I actually switched the direction of that. Previously this was studs facing upside down, and I actually reoriented that, and I rethought the internal structure of this whole section here. So now this is all very nice and rock solid. So this is kind of the most important, crucial load-bearing part of the ship, because it's where everything, the whole of the wings will be, you know, balancing on the end of this section right here. So I had to get a really, really sturdy core in through the center of that with Technic, and then brace it with tons and tons and tons of sandwiched bracket bricks in here. You can see these are super good for building up strengthy connections, and then lots and lots of sandwiched plates and things of that sort. So yeah, really happy with how that's gone so far. It's very sturdy. I can actually pick the ship up from back here, and I don't feel any flex or bowing or anything like that around the front. So that's very nice. So yeah, that's the main kind of structural changes. And then obviously you can see back here I have integrated the dojo into this whole kind of ship area here. But oops, Yang's feet are in the way. But some changes, they are coming for this as well. I'll discuss those in a little bit. But basically what I think I'm gonna have to do, long story short, is to raise this up to basically be a couple of plates higher than it is now. So let's discuss that and why that is. But yeah, and just having taken the ship off of the dry dock very quickly, you can see here, like I said, the wing rotating mechanism is working great. It's very, very sturdy. I can't really show it to you from the front. I'm not really able to move it at this angle and hold it like this, but yeah, it's working, and very, very happy with that so far. And just really quickly, I adjusted the angle of the wings here so I could give you a look at this side detailing that I have gotten here so far. So this represents a door that is seldom used, but we see it, I think, in one shot in the show being used. And then over here we have the sort of gold piping details and everything, and the way that that sort of dives back here into the ship and takes this sharp angle. I'm really, really pleased with how all of that turned out. Ordinarily, I would try to use bar pieces to capture these kind of pipe type details, but I went with the grill tiles in here just because I wanted it to have a nice smooth transition across this angle change here, and also because they're very tightly bunched, and I didn't want to spread them out a bunch in order to use physical sort of bar pieces, because that would have just created a little bit of a different pattern that wasn't quite what I was going for there. So yeah, but this has been mirrored on both sides, so this is pretty much how it's going to look, I think. And then let me show you the underside. So from the underside here, you can see I'm starting to figure out the design for the plating and the way that that's all going to meet up. So far this is hollow in here, and I'm going to just have to figure out a little gap filling solution for that, but I don't think that should be too difficult. But yeah, I think the overall dimensions are something that's kind of massaging, like raising up the bottom section of this where it connects in, raising and lowering it by a plate makes a fairly dramatic difference. So I've been experimenting to find just the sweet spot for that, and also trying to hint at the curvature these plates have. These are not just straight plates like what you'd see on something like the Tantive V4 or Republic Cruiser, like those kind of things. This actually has a lot of form to it, and so I'm just trying to hint at that a little bit by stepping down the plates one plate thickness, and then also using these curved bricks to sort of bridge that gap and give it a little bit of extra smoothness. So so far I'm pretty happy with how that's looking and how it's meeting up along the side here. Feels pretty seamless and pretty nice, and it's just held in here with the hinged ratcheting hinged bricks, so that's going to be fun. And then I stopped back here because this is where the boarding ramp is going to go, the one with the stairs that flips down and Ahsoka jumps onto it to avoid getting killed by a giant explosion. So I'm going to kind of figure that out next, and then we'll see how much of this will continue. Maybe there'll be just a small sliver of this that continues up here, and then the rest of it is ramp, and then we kind of continue this plating over here. But yeah, I've yet to figure that out, so I've just left it for the time being as is. And down here you can see the actuator, temporary actuator for the mechanism for the table and chairs there, which still has to get adequately buried away in the design. I'm not fully sure how I'm going to do that just yet. Again, that's a little bit of a question mark to be figured out for another day, but progress is being made and I'm pretty happy. One of the reasons that I'm contemplating raising up this floor by a couple of plates of thickness, or maybe just one, is so that I can just have more clearance in here for these bottom hull plates to be able to exist, and also enable me to add more support that runs through the floor section, which right now is sort of unsupported in a lot of ways. And because I really need a strong core to go right through the ship, because I'm going to have to attach a stand somewhere in here, and I want to be able to support the ship, obviously. So this whole section needs to be a lot stronger than it currently can be. So that's something that I have to figure out next. And then lastly, I just wanted to give you guys a look at the interior here of this dojo situation as it is beginning to take shape. So one unfortunate casualty of just the simple design of the in-universe ship is that the bunks that we see Sabine lying in at one point are actually located inside of this rotating section here. So there's no possible way on Earth that I can get those to be represented in there in any way. And then I contemplated placing them down here just sort of behind the rotating section where I have a little bit of a gap, but there's just not enough space. And what I really wanted to focus on instead is the details of this door that leads into the hallway that, where those bunks would be, and then just omitting that section and replacing it with something far more detailed and nice than if I had to try to squeeze bunks back here as well, and then I would kind of lose most of the space that I'm needing for this wall, and also a lot of the structural support that holds all of this in together, because don't forget, this is the choke point where all of the pressure of the wings, those heavy wings, is going to be on this part right here. So I really didn't have the ability to add the bunks in there, but they are a fairly minor part of the ship, and I think the part that I'm most excited about is back here is going to be the little lightsaber workshop area, and that's definitely going in there for sure. But yeah, for right now we just have the dojo, and of course, the tables and chairs that do raise and lower. That's, I think, more than enough to capture the feel of the interior of this space, especially when we have the boarding ramp coming down here, and you'll be able to come up into this section, and then with a really nice detailed door back here. Again, I really took a lot of inspiration from the actual set in the show, and a lot of this is probably subject to change still, I would think. None of this is exactly final, but I really like the overall look of this door. The control panels there feel just right, and then the rounded kind of feel around the door, which sort of goes along with the form of the rest of the ship, right? The rotating section sort of leads directly into the entrance to this section, so obviously it makes sense for the top of this to be rounded off and for the ceiling to be sloping in, as is required by what is going to be the panels that come down here on top. So so far, really happy with it. I think it's looking great, and the only thing I have to do is just figure out exactly how high the floor can be or should be in order to still accommodate the mechanism and also for figures to still be able to stand, right? Because I don't want figures to be unrealistically high up. Right now, I still think I have a couple of, maybe 1 brick of thickness to work with before that becomes an issue. And I really love being able to have Huyang and Ahsoka and Sabine in here. And I gave Sabine the training helmet here, which is just simply the Buzz Lightyear helmet from the recent Buzz Lightyear movie sets. I really like how it has this black part on the back. It really reminds me of the actual prop from Ahsoka, and then obviously just put the black visor on it to give her the blast screen there. And then for her Boken sword, I'm literally just using a brown bar because I don't have any brown samurai swords. I don't even know if Lego makes any brown samurai swords. And also I think it's kind of funny that training with a samurai sword when you're going to be using a lightsaber is kind of a weird idea to begin with. Only the darksaber is kind of shaped in that way, so a bar is perfectly satisfactory to simulate a lightsaber. So there you go. And obviously Huyang here has his training sabers that show, or they're kind of like the Wii, the Wii game sort of thing, where it tracks where your saber strikes hit, and then you get a little score at the end for accuracy. So that's really fun. And I wanted to obviously be able to include that as well. And so back here, there will be a wall with a door and then a ladder that leads up. And then this back wall will have room for Ahsoka's lightsaber collection, as well as to store the helmets for training. Those are going to be back here. And then behind that wall will be the lightsaber sort of workshop area. So yeah, really, really excited for all of that. So as to the overall aesthetic of this model, I am definitely trying to push more in the direction of my Stinger Mantis version 2 rather than version 1, where version 1, the main difference there is that I was focused pretty much exclusively on structural elements, with aesthetics coming in second place for sure. And on this one, what I want to try to do is balance that a little more in the favor of aesthetics and really get that nice sleek look across the whole thing. I do still want to obviously have these areas where we have little off colors and things, because this is a Star Wars ship and it is beat up and it gets shot a bunch in the show. So it's definitely fun to be able to add in those little areas of off colors. And obviously, like here in the Greebling, I want to try to swap colors from left to right so that there's some extra visual interest. But yeah, the kind of elevated look that I'm trying to bring to this means that I'm having to wait a lot longer for multiple parts orders, because I just don't have like 300 of these triangular dark red tiles in my collection, for example. So that's been making things a little slower than usual, but I'm still very happy with the progress thus far, and I think that this is going to be an absolute smash hit of a model once it's finished, if I can actually make it hold itself together with this massive wing structure over here. But you'll be happy to see here that the if I can get this in the correct position, sorry, 1 second. There you go. So you'll be happy to see that the wings do indeed hold themselves perfectly fine in whatever configuration you put them in. So you will be able to just rotate them into the upright position and they will stay. And then all I have to do is figure out a stand design. That's actually the thing I want to talk to you about next, that can accommodate all of the needs of this ship in its very specific configuration. So what about that stand? I think a stand is definitely essential for this, and it's going to be a part of the main instructions for this build, because I think it's just simply going to need it to be a functional thing. So in the Ahsoka show, we can see that up in the front here, this whole section opens up and landing gear come out, and then back here underneath this lowered section, another set of landing gear comes out, shorter ones, and so you get a 3-point area where the ship is held up. Now, I have looked at over and over again where the position of the landing gear and the ramp to board the ship is, and I have to come to the conclusion that they are in fact in the same place, and it is not physically possible to have both the landing gear as shown in the show and the boarding ramp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a attachable landing gear that you can place in the correct spot, that you'll just remove when you're done displaying it in its horizontal configuration, and then you want to take it into flight mode or whatever. So I think that's an acceptable trade-off for something that I really do feel is not possible to replicate physically. And then for the stand, I'm going to basically create a stand that can be modified. So you'll have your base, where if you want to have the ship supported on its wings and just sitting in the horizontal configuration like what you see here, you can do that, and then you'll have legs that you add that can raise the stand up to the height that it will require, which will be very tall indeed, to have the wings in the vertical position. And I'm pretty sure that that's going to work out just fine, but the only downside of that is that you'll have to choose before you display the thing, do you want it horizontal or vertical, and then you won't be able to change it midway through just because of the way that these wings rotate with absolutely no clearance. They meet right up to the edge of the ship, and there's nowhere to kind of place a stand where you could also rotate these wings, because the wings go all the way back to the back of the ship. So it's just not practical. And in the actual shooting model, they had it where obviously there's no interior to the shooting model that they created for the Ahsoka show, so they have basically a steel rod that runs right the way through, and they mount it from the back here so that they can freely rotate the wings, and the stand won't interfere with it. So that's obviously not an option for me because I'm creating a very large scale playset here with a interior as well. So we're figuring it out, but I think, yeah, there's going to be basically a stand with 4 legs that will support under here on either side of the main core of the ship, and then you'll just be able to place the wings before you put it in the stand. So that's my plan for now. Let me know if that sounds good to you down in the comments, and let me know if there's anything that you can see that is going to be an obvious problem that's going to trip me up. I'd love to hear your thoughts and what you think of the progress so far. So that's going to pretty much do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching and for following along on the progress with this journey. This is going to be a huge engineering nightmare for me, as it already has proven to be in many ways, and I'm just going to continue to have fun struggling through it because that is my favorite part of the whole process. So that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please do let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new here. There's so much more content on the way in terms of not only this ship, other Star Wars ships, and other things that aren't Star Wars. I do plan to get to some of that this year, I promise. I know I've been very heavily focused on Star Wars with a little bit of Harry Potter thrown in there, but I have other stuff, original stuff that I want to do as well. That's going to be fun. So yeah, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications bell and all that, whatever YouTube makes you do, so that you can see when I upload a video. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks again, and bye for now.